Stay tuned to learn how you can make this 4-star quilt. In this video, you'll learn how to quickly cut these shapes using your rotary cutter. Gather your supplies. I've posted this supply list with other handouts at learnhowtoquilt.com under Quilting Classes, the 4-star quilt. I've given directions for a 2-fabric quilt, but you can make the stars in different colors or use scraps for the background. I think this quilt looks great in almost any fabric combo. I will add a word of caution here. Directional fabrics like the stripes in this pattern or the rows of sewing machines or rows of matches require a little more thinking about their placement. They're okay to use, but you'll have to spend more time planning. To make the stars, you'll need to cut 32 3.5-inch squares and 4 7.5-inch squares. I provided this cutting layout for you in the handouts. I'll fold my fabric from selvage to selvage, and then I'll fold it in half again, and I'll line this edge up with one of the lines on my cutting mat. I'll trim this off to get a nice straight edge. I like to not only line up my ruler with this vertical line, but I also like to check and make sure these horizontal lines are lined up. Just a double check, and I'm ready to cut. I'll take my straight edge and flip it to the other side. Line up your straight edge and your folded edge with the lines on your cutting mat. To cut the 3.5-inch squares for the star rays, we'll need 1, 2, 3 strips that are 3.5 inches wide. I've measured over 3.5 inches and need to cut. I've cut my 3.5-inch strips, and now I'm ready to cut one 7.5-inch strip for the star centers. Since I'm at the cutting table, I'll also cut these 4 1.5-inch strips for the inner border. I'll put these inner border strips away for later. Cut these 3 strips into 32 3.5-inch squares and this one strip into 4 7.5-inch squares. I'll be cutting through 3 layers of fabric. I could fold these and cut through all 6, but I usually only like to cut through about 3 to 4 layers at a time. I find I'm not that accurate when I cut through a lot of layers, but that's up to you. So first thing I do is line up my ruler on the horizontal and vertical lines and trim off the selvage. You don't want that in your quilt. These are going to be 3.5-inch squares, so I measure 1, 2, 3.5 over, cut, and I'll continue cutting till I have 32 squares. I'll do the same thing for the 7.5-inch strip. I'll line this up, trim off the selvage, measure 7.5 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 will be at that. I'll line up my ruler with the vertical and the horizontal line, and then I'll cut. Here are my squares and strips from the star fabric. I'll cut my border fabric using the same process as I did for the star fabric. I folded selvage to selvage, and then I fold it again, I trim the edge, I flipped it, and then I'll follow the cutting layout. You'll end up with 4 5.5-inch squares, 5 7.5-inch squares, 12 5.5 by 7.5-inch rectangles, 4 4.5-inch strips, plus 2 1.25-inch strips that you can use for the binding. In the next video in this series, I'll show you how to sew the quilt together using the quick corner method. Thanks for visiting learnhowtoquilt.com. Please share our videos with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks.